Emma sat at the edge of the hospital bed, motionless, her fingers lightly brushing the sheets. Morning light filtered through the curtains, casting long shadows across her face. The sterile smell of antiseptic and fading lilies hung in the air. The pulse monitor beeped steadily, almost rhythmically, as if it were counting down moments she wasn't ready to let go of. Stage 1. Treatable, the doctor had said, a phrase that seemed both comforting and terrifying. The word cancer had slipped into her world like a slow leak, silent, invisible, deadly. She had not cried. Emma had always been strong, the kind of strength that got promotions, paid bills, and carried groceries without help. But strength was no match for the fear that quietly crept into her chest at 3 hours. Immédiatement, when sleep wouldn't come and memories bled into nightmares. She remembered the fountain, summer, age 8, her grandmother's laugh echoing in the distance as droplets from the park fountain splashed around them. That single droplet that landed on her eyelash, catching the sun like a prism, felt like magic, like life. Lisa, the morning nurse, walked in with her usual soft smile and a thermos. Warm water, ginger and a hint of lemon, she said, placing it gently on the nightstand. Emma tried to lift herself. Even that was a challenge. "Let me help you," Lisa said, adjusting her pillows. Outside, a maple tree was shedding its last few leaves. Emma watched one golden leaf spiral down slowly. "Is that what healing looks like?" she whispered, letting go, so something new can grow. That night, the pain came like a wave. She bit her lip to avoid crying out. Her hand trembled as she reached for the call button, but then she paused. "I want to live," she whispered to the dark. It wasn't a declaration of war. It was a wish. The next morning, she told Lisa, "I want to walk. Just a few steps. Around the room." "Let's do it," Lisa said, her voice catching slightly. And with trembling knees and a racing heart, Emma stood. 1 step, 2. It felt like scaling a mountain. But with each breath, each inch forward, something inside her stirred. Something ancient, something fierce. The light within had not gone out. It had just dimmed. And now it was flickering back to life. The hallway outside Emma's room bustled with the ordinary hum of hospital life. Carts rolling, soft voices murmuring orders, and the faint smell of coffee wafting from the nurse's station. But inside room 204, time moved differently. Every second felt sacred, like the first page of a new chapter. Emma stood beside her bed, one hand gripping the IV pole like a lifeline, the other pressed gently to her chest. Her feet, bare against the cold linoleum, trembled slightly, but she was upright. She was moving. Lisa stayed close, a quiet presence at her side, just around the bed. For now, no need to rush. Emma nodded. Her first step was hesitant, testing. The second, more certain. Her legs ached with the weight of stillness, but her heart pushed forward. "You're doing great," Lisa said, her voice calm and encouraging. Emma managed a faint smile. "I feel like a baby dear." "That's exactly how it starts." They made a slow circuit around the bed. Emma paused at the window, where the same golden tree swayed gently in the wind. She leaned slightly forward, taking in the sky so blue it hurt. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Yes, and so are you," Lisa replied softly. Over the next few days, Emma made it her mission to walk a little farther each morning, from one corner of the room to another, then to the door, then into the hallway. With each step, she rediscovered herself, her breath, her pulse, her strength. Other patients began to notice. A man with a scar on his neck gave her a thumbs up. A teenage girl with a buzz cut smiled each time they passed in the corridor. Emma started carrying a small notebook with her. She wrote one line each day. Today, I stood. Today, I walked to the window. Today, I made someone smile. It wasn't just a record. It was a promise, a blueprint for healing. One afternoon, Lisa brought in a small speaker. Thought you might want some music. Emma picked a playlist called Stillness and Strength. As soft piano notes filled the room, she closed her eyes, let the sound wash over her, and took another step forward, not just around the room, but toward her life. By the end of the second week, Emma had made it to the lounge at the end of the corridor. It was a small space, 2 armchairs, a bookshelf, a window with a tired-looking plant. But to her, it felt like a summit. She chose the armchair nearest the window and watched the world outside. Nurses changing shifts, families coming and going, lives unfolding just beyond her reach. It made her feel both incredibly small and infinitely present. Lisa found her there later that afternoon with her notebook open and pen in hand. Writing. Emma looked up. Letters. To myself? From the version of me who's already healed. Lisa raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What does she say? Emma smiled. She says not to rush. That healing isn't linear. That rest is also progress. The idea began as a private ritual. Each morning, after her walk, Emma would sit in the lounge and write a letter. Some were 2 lines. Others filled pages. They weren't just words, they were anchors. Dear Emma, she wrote, today you took 3 more steps. I'm proud of you, not for the walking, but for trying, for not giving up. With each letter, she stitched her spirit back together, thread by thread. The nurses began to notice her new ritual. One left her a pen with a flower charm. Another placed a small note card on her tray that read, Keep going. Emma started taping the letters to her wall. Soon, the sterile white surface transformed into a patchwork of hope blue ink, shaky handwriting, love from her future self. And every day, the Emma who sat in that chair felt a little more like the Emma she was writing to, a little more whole, a little more alive. 3 weeks into her recovery, Emma discovered the rooftop garden. It wasn't marked clearly, just a nondescript door at the end of the south hallway. But Lisa knew, you've earned a little sunshine. She had whispered with a wink. The garden was quiet. Wind rustled the leaves of potted herbs. Wooden benches lined the path, flanked by patches of lavender and thyme. There was even a small fountain. Its trickling sound immediately transported Emma back to that childhood memory in the park. She sat beneath a maple tree, journal in her lap, the sun warming her cheeks. It was the first time in weeks that she felt air on her skin without the hum of machines in the background. 2 other patients were there, an elderly man doing a crossword, a woman knitting slowly, her scarf already stretching into the afternoon. Emma didn't speak. She just listened. The sound of knitting needles clicking, the scrape of pen on crossword, the water, the wind, peace. Over the next days, the rooftop became her sanctuary. She named the plants in her journal, sketched the lines of each leaf, wrote poems about wind and silence. Some days she sat quietly, others she shared gentle conversations with strangers whose names she never needed to know. One afternoon, the woman with the scarf offered Emma a square of dark chocolate. For strength, she said. Emma accepted. surprised at how something so small could feel like a blessing. Another time, she helped the crossword man find a word. Resilience, 10 letters, a perfect fit. Each visit to the garden gave her something different: clarity, companionship, calm. But most importantly, it gave her a sense of future. That healing wasn't just survival, it was rediscovery of light, of laughter, of life, and of herself. Emma's walks grew longer. Her steps, once tentative and tremulous, now carried quiet confidence. She still tired easily, and some days the ache in her bones reminded her of how far she had to go. But her world was no longer confined to room 204. She was moving through hallways and lives, absorbing fragments of healing from everyone she passed. On one such walk, she met Raphael. He sat in a wheelchair by the east-facing windows, a sketchpad on his lap, pencils arranged in a neat row beside him. His left leg was missing below the knee, the bandage fresh, but his hands moved swiftly, precisely, bringing to life the profile of a sparrow on paper. Emma paused. "That's beautiful." He looked up, gave a nod, and said, "She's the one that perches on the ledge every morning, like she owns the place." Emma smiled and leaned on the railing beside him. "I haven't seen her. You have to be up early, like really early, before breakfast, before the pain meds." It became a quiet routine. Some mornings, they sat in silence, watching for the sparrow. Other days, Raphael would sketch while Emma wrote in her journal. Neither asked questions. They didn't speak of diagnoses, surgeries, or fears. There was no need. One morning, as the sky turned orange with dawn, Raphael handed her a small piece of paper. On it was a sketch of a woman standing strong beneath a tree, her face upward, eyes closed, as if welcoming the wind. Emma stared at it for a long moment. "Is that me?" "It's how I see you," Raphael said. "You look like you know how to stand in storms." Her eyes burned with sudden tears. She folded the sketch carefully and tucked it into her journal. Later that week, she wrote, "Healing is often silent, like pencil lines becoming a face, or a bird returning at sunrise. We don't always notice it happening until we do." That sketch stayed with her. So did the feeling that, somewhere along the way, she'd become part of something larger, a web of unspoken threads, each one holding someone else steady quietly, gently, completely. And that, too, was healing. Emma's strength returned slowly, not in bursts, but in quiet surges, the way tide returns to the shore, almost unnoticed until your feet are wet again. She began helping others in small ways, fetching water for the elderly woman in the next room, holding the elevator door for a nurse balancing a tray, listening without interruption when someone needed to cry. The hospital staff noticed, so did the patients. One day, Lisa found a note taped to Emma's door. It read, "Thank you for being the reason I smiled today." It was unsigned. Emma held the note to her heart, in a place that had once only echoed with fear and fatigue. Joy was beginning to return, like morning light sneaking past heavy curtains. Her journal entries changed, too, less about pain, more about people, more about presence. She wrote about an old man who played harmonica by the vending machine, about a child who gave her a sticker shaped like a star, about a nurse who braided her hair during a quiet shift. She wrote, "Kindness, when freely given, echoes longer than pain." It wasn't all perfect. Some nights, the pain came back. Some mornings, the mirror still startled her with its reflections. But even in those moments, Emma had something new, a deeper well to draw from, a resilience made of soft things of smiles, gestures, patience. One afternoon, as she rested in the rooftop garden, Raphael wheeled beside her. He had a new prosthetic now, and his posture was straighter, steadier. "I saw your wall of letters," he said. "It's like walking into sunlight." Emma smiled. "They helped me remember who I was, and who I could still become." He nodded. "You've become someone who helps others remember too." She didn't know what to say, but she didn't need to. They sat in silence, the kind that feels full rather than empty, and watched as the wind gently stirred the lavender. In that moment, Emma understood something she hadn't before. Healing wasn't a return to the old self. It was the quiet creation of a new one, a self stitched together by moments of courage, connection, and quiet strength. The music drifted down the hallway before Emma even reached the community room. It was a soft jazz-tuned piano, keys skipping like stones across water. She paused at the doorway, curious. Inside, chairs had been pushed to the sides of the room. A small speaker played beside a nurse's station, and a handful of patients sat watching a volunteer dance instructor guide slow movements for those able to stand. Lisa spotted Emma and waved her in. "You're just in time. Today's about movement and music." Emma hesitated, then stepped in, her heart quickening. The idea of dancing felt foreign, like it belonged to another life. But something about the light-hearted energy in the room invited her in. The instructor, a woman with silver hair and bare feet, offered her a kind smile. "Just move however you feel. It's not about the steps." Emma nodded. She took her place near the back, letting the music guide her. First, just a sway, then a slow turn. Her arms moved with hesitation, then with memory. She had danced once, long ago, at a cousin's wedding, at home in the kitchen, in the rain. Now, she was dancing in a hospital, and it felt like reclaiming a piece of herself that she didn't know had been missing. Raphael watched from the doorway, his sketchpad in hand, a small grin on his face. "You look like you're flying," he said as she passed him. Emma laughed, a sound that came from deep within, unfiltered. After the session, she sat on a bench by the window, breathless but alive. In her journal, she wrote, "Today I danced, not because I was healed, but because I remembered joy." That night, her dreams were full of music and wind. And in the stillness of 2A, "Amimos," she whispered, "I'm coming back to myself, not all at once, but step by step, like a dance." Spring had begun to bloom in the world outside, and with it, Emma's discharge date quietly approached. It was circled on the calendar in her room, a red ring around a future she wasn't quite ready for, but knew she had earned. She spent her last week making slow rounds, visiting familiar corners of the hospital, like a pilgrim saying goodbye. She returned to the rooftop garden, fingers brushing the newly budding leaves. She lingered by the windows where Raphael still sketched sparrows and clouds. She left a letter taped to the community room wall. "To the next person who dances here, your joy matters." The day before she left, Lisa brought her a small box. Inside was a chain bracelet with tiny silver charms, a pencil, a music note, a heart, and a tiny pair of dancing shoes. "It's from all of us," Lisa said, smiling through tears. "For every part of you we've come to know." Emma touched each charm, her eyes misting. "I don't know how to say goodbye." "You don't have to," Lisa said. "Just keep living. That's enough." On her last morning, Emma packed her letters, her journal, and Raphael's sketch. She took one final walk down the hallway that had once felt endless. Nurses clapped softly. A patient gave her a rose. Raphael handed her a final drawing, her silhouette walking into sunlight. Outside, the air smelled of new grass and open sky. Emma stood still for a moment, feeling the weight of the hospital behind her and the invitation of the world ahead. She didn't feel healed in the way some stories end, but she felt whole, and that, she now understood, was enough. With the light within glowing steady and quiet, Emma stepped into her next chapter, not as who she had been, but as who she had become. To whoever finds this, maybe you're in a room like mine. Maybe you feel like everything familiar has unraveled. Maybe the silence is too loud, and the nights stretch longer than they should. I've been there. This place, these walls, can feel heavy, but healing happens here. Not just in medicine or treatments, but in people, in kindness, in your first step, in laughter you thought you'd forgotten. There will be hard days. Don't let them define you. There will be quiet victories. Celebrate them. There will be strangers who become part of your story. Let them. You're not broken. You're becoming. Keep writing your story one breath, one step, one moment at a time. With love and light, Emma.